Hi everybody, it's Anna and welcome back to Top 5 Wednesday. If you are new to Top 5 Wednesday, I will go ahead and link the Goodreads group down below for topics, ways to get involved, etc., etc. So today's topic is our favorite science fiction and fantasy and other media. This is a crossover with the BookTube SFF Awards. I believe they're called Book Babbles, so I will also tag some more information about that. Basically, it is where the BookTube community reads and judges the best science fiction and fantasy of the year. I'm not judging, I'm just watching all the videos, gladly participating, and ever embiggening my TBR. So let's go ahead and talk about some of my favorite science fiction and fantasy in media that is not books. So to start out with, I wanted to tell you about a couple podcasts that I really love. One of them is called Tanis. It is in its, I think, third or fourth season now, and Tanis is a podcast that really creeped me out when I first started listening to it because I wasn't sure that it wasn't real. I actually did have to go and look up whether it was a fiction podcast because it draws just enough from real life and like places near where I live and places that I have gone and people that are important in history that it really kind of spooked me a bit because it is very atmospheric and very scary. So it takes place in the Pacific Northwest, which is where I live, and we're sort of following this character, Nick, as he goes through and tries to investigate these references that he keeps finding, these obscure references and old texts and things to something that's called Tanis. He's not sure whether it is a person, a place, some kind of ancient god, maybe the Earth's way of correcting the damage that humans have done to it because of things like industrialization and pollution and stuff like that. Not really sure what Tanis is this many seasons in. I think I have a little bit of a better idea than when I started, but I'm not even really sure what Tanis is. It's very spooky, very atmospheric. It can get a little bit gory sometimes, but more of like in a psychological horror way than like I'm killing a ton of people. So very good podcast. The second podcast that I wanted to tell you about is Welcome to Night Vale, which if you're on the internet at all, you're probably aware of Welcome to Night Vale. As you can see, I have it as my phone background. All hail the glow cloud. All hail. All hail. Welcome to Night Vale is a podcast that is done in the style of a small town community public radio update. It's narrated by Cecil Palmer. It's been going on for probably like 6 years now. I've been listening to it for about 4 of those years. I've been current with the podcast. They do live shows pretty frequently, which is if you've ever heard the live audience for things like other public radio shows like Wait, Don't Tell Me or whatever. Welcome to Night Vale really embraces its weird. The show has a lot of great representation of queer characters, non-traditional families, the human and the inhuman. It's a lot about community and community building. And it is a place where the weird is kind of just taken for granted. It's just delightfully strange. I don't really know how to describe it. But the next is a TV show. This is currently my favorite show on television, and that is The Good Place. It is about this woman named Eleanor who dies. That's not a spoiler. She just wakes up dead and finds out that she has made it. She's made it to the good place. There's the good place and there's the bad place. But Eleanor herself knows that she's been accidentally mistaken for somebody else because she's really kind of a terrible person. So she knows that she doesn't belong in the good place because she was not a very good person in her life. And they're like, oh, you went on this medical Doctors Without Borders trip to help refugees. And she's like, I never did that. So she's trying to figure out how the mix-up happened, what's going on, where she is, who's, the real Eleanor, and she teams up with these sort of unlikely cast of characters along the way. It is really delightful. Go ahead and do yourself a favor and watch it. I don't want to say a ton about it because it's a show that's full of surprises, and I don't want to give any of them away, but it's a really, really fun show. Okay, and then next up is 2 games. So these are more general games and a specific game. So for the general game, I am also a super huge fan of tabletop RPGs. You can see my lovely little collection of dice here. More specifically, games like Dungeons and Dragons. I actually just started a campaign yesterday, and I'm playing as a character named Tam Goodbarrel. She's a halfling ranger who is also like an entertainer, which means that when she's not stabbing and shooting people with bows and arrows, she likes to put on funny disguises and play the panpipes. And we had this really interesting campaign that we did last night where we were trying to like recover a stolen sword, and we ended up helping these little like mushroom people. They were like humanoid walking around mushrooms, defeat a giant crab, and we turned it into a crab rodeo. Our fighter ended up lassoing the crab, and I was like, wow, I'm gonna jump on it and stab it in the eye. It's a really fun game, and I think that it speaks a lot to the power of storytelling and the power of self-exploration and the way that like the way that our relationships with characters can kind of affect our relationships with ourselves and our knowledge of ourselves. So Dungeons and Dragons, other tabletop RPGs, giant yes in my book. And then the final thing is my favorite game of all time, and that is Skyrim. It is my life. I have my little Dovahkiin keychain here with me. Skyrim is a game that places you in a fantasy world, snowy, cold place where dragons have long been absent, but they are now back. And you have something to do with it. You have to go on this quest to try and figure out why the dragons have returned to Skyrim, learn the magic of the dragons, how to fight them, how to protect people from them, and then it just turns into this wild and ridiculously wonderful open world odyssey. Skyrim is a game that got me through a really difficult period in my life. Details of that aren't really important, but suffice it to say, it was really helpful for me to play as a character who placed so much focus on getting out and just doing. Didn't think about what she was gonna do, she just did. I was playing as a Breton conjuration mage. The Bretons are, they're humans, but they're a little bit more short and better endowed with magical abilities than other humans. And I was a conjuration mage, which means that in one hand I had like a magical sword, and then in the other hand I had like, that was my casting hand. So I could use that to like summon up a creature to come fight for me. I used to summon up these things that are called Atronachs, and they're like these elemental warriors. So it would be like a fire warrior would come out of my hand and help me fight against, you know, skeletons or assassins and bandits and things like that. Some of my favorite Skyrim quest lines were the Dark Brotherhood. We know. If you know, we know. Thieves Guild I never really did finish, but I enjoyed it. One of my other favorite things that I did in Skyrim was get married to a guy that I bested in a bar fight. So in order to get married in Skyrim, pretty much all you have to do is you put on this amulet that is the Skyrim equivalent of single and ready to mingle. So other characters will then approach you and you have that like romance option. Usually you have to complete some type of quest for that character in order to win their love. For me, I had to like fight my in-game husband at the bar, destroyed him, and he was like super into that. And it's kind of funny when you do get married in Skyrim, your spouse, because you can, you know, you can marry regardless of the gender of your character, the gender of your partner. So I'm just gonna say your spouse. Your spouse kind of like stays at home and they basically run their own business and they cook for you, which is great because my like bar brawling husband ended up just becoming this little homebody guy that anytime I came in, he was like, "Hello, darling, I baked you this pie. It's so good to see you." And Skyrim is just a super fun game. Again, if you've been on the internet at all, you probably know something about it, so I won't continue harping on it, but it is without a doubt one of my favorite pieces of the genre. Okay, so that is all for Top 5 Wednesday this week. Make sure to comment down below if you also enjoy any of these things or if you have any questions about them, because I'm always really happy to talk about like fandoms and geek out about things. And I also kind of want to know how many of you also play like video games and, you know, tabletop games, whether it's board games or RPGs, and if so, which ones do you play? I am thinking about doing some more like generally nerdy tags, but I kind of want to get a feel for how comfortable the people that watch these videos are with that, like how familiar you are with that, especially since I know we talk mostly about books. So we shall see. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!